but we're all going to face those hard times in our life where it's much more difficult, and that's when it becomes a choice. And you definitely can find those things to be grateful for in your life, but they're harder. You've got to look for it.
Right.
Easy to say, not so easy to do.
Right. I'm a little uncertain about that. What does that mean?
Well, I think it's so hard right now in this day and age, and sometimes you're going through hard things, and it's easy to get really focused on what's not going well in your life. And you see people who just seem to be happy and grateful all the time, but let's face it, no one goes through life unscathed. So gratitude is a choice.
I like that. So we should look around us, and rather than dwelling and sulking and being focused on what's not going right, look at what is going well, or look at what's not going right or well for you and reframe it or change it if you can.
I like that. I remember hearing a speaker, it's been many years ago now, who showed he had like a frame, and he had this really dark, kind of black wall behind him. And you just were seeing this portion of the wall, and he had the frame around that very black spot. And he said, look at what's in this frame of reference. It's dark, isn't it? And he said, you are dwelling in the area of your life that's dark. But then the lens opened up wider, and you could actually see the whole wall behind him. And the dark spot that you saw was part of this beautiful canvas that was actually full of light. It was this beautiful scene in creation, and there were beautiful mountains and trees and the ocean and the sun. But you just saw this one really dark spot, which was this storm cloud over here in the very left-hand corner of the photo. But if that is what your framing is, if that's what your frame, your perspective is, then you can't see the rest. So it was just really an encouragement. I'll never forget that, because it was such a great picture to be reminded of. We can get so locked into one aspect of our lives. And if you're going through something really hard, which we all do, it's hard to not be in that perspective and just let that drag you down.
That's great. It reminds me of a camera. You know, the aperture is really tight, and you're looking at just one little piece. You have your telephoto lens on, and you shake it a little bit, and it's blurry. And then you open it up, and you can see more of the picture, more of the picture, more of the picture. And even when you shake it, it's not as blurry at that point sometimes too. You can shake it a little bit more. So yeah, maybe our lives are like that. We're focusing on the minutia, the small things, the telephoto lens. Step back, look at the big picture, and look at all the things to be grateful for.
And I think there's times in our lives where it's really easy to do. I mean, you have a birth of a baby, your wedding day, after a fun vacation, and you're filled with gratitude over that. And then it's easier to be grateful, but we're all going to face those hard times in our life where it's much more difficult, and that's when it becomes a choice. And you definitely can find those things to be grateful for in your life, but they're harder. You've got to look for it.
Right. So what are some things we could be grateful for that maybe we just take for granted?
You know, I think so often we get caught up in our troubles that we just don't lift our eyes to see what's right in front of us. And I just actually posted, we were coming back on the plane home, and all of a sudden I turned and I look out the window, and there's just this beautiful landscape of mountains. It was Mount Baker and
Rainier
and
Hood.
Oh my goodness, it was just absolutely incredible. And we actually had a sunny day coming home, and it was one of those things that you looked at it and it was wow. It was just a wow moment. But I could have been with my head in my work, working on emails as I often do and catch up on work while I'm on the plane. But I actually had put work aside. It was just sitting there on the ride home and not doing anything, which is perfectly okay. Believe it or not, it's perfectly okay. And I was able to just watch out the window that whole flight, and it was amazing. And just looking at something awe-inspiring like that just brings awe and it brings gratitude. I thought, wow, there's so many things that may be going wrong in the world, but I did not see it at that moment because I was just awestruck by the beauty and grateful for this beautiful world that we live in.
Mm-hmm. So creation is one thing we should stop, focus on, and be grateful for.
Right.
Because it's all around us and it's easy.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. I think we all are a little bit different on what brings that awe in our life, but the more that we can find those moments of, so if getting outside and being in creation, and that's certainly something for both of us that just fills our hearts with gratitude. So get out and do that. Make space in your life, create margin where you can get out and do those things that just conjure up gratitude in your life.
Mm-hmm. Just simply being able to go to church and not have fear or a whole lot of fear of, being persecuted for doing it.
Right.
So especially right now in the world, just even locally, in the U.S., but that's not the case everywhere.
No.
And I'm grateful for that, to be able to do that and to just be with community and be with friends.
Right. Well, and that's interesting. I mean, talking about a perspective of gratitude, I mean, watching the war in Ukraine and everything that's going on there. And speaking of churches just utterly being targeted and destroyed. And then having interviews by the Ukrainian people who talked about their church and the importance of it and how they are now, they're continuing to go, and they've changed their perspective on it, that they're not sure if they're going to have that place of worship. They may lose it, which is horrifying. So what they're doing, I just saw this on the news, what they're doing is they're actually taking video recording of the entire church and some of these landmarks, historic landmarks that they've had as part of their culture for years, and they're actually taking videos and photos of all of that. So should the church or very special place of their culture be destroyed, they can rebuild it. So that is just an extreme example of here are amazing people that are going through something absolutely horrific, and they're going and they're taking their children to church, they're having them baptized, they're worshiping, they're being grateful for the life and the family that they have despite all odds, which is something for us to learn from.
Right.
And I think you're right, for us being so grateful that here in the U.S., for the most part, we do have the freedom to do what things that we want to do without that fear. Mm-hmm. And that is something to be grateful for. One thing that's really helped me is having just a regular gratitude practice. And I think if you can build a discipline around gratitude, that it can really help you be grateful and create a mindset of gratefulness that carries you through those days that are darker.
Yeah. I think you even have a worksheet, don't you? The gratefulness worksheet?
I do. And one of the things that I do for myself, and I would suggest, and let's include it as a handout with this podcast, is to be able to, when you're finding yourself in a place where you just can't get out of this space of negativity, you're going through something really hard, and it's just one of those days that you're having a hard time switching your perspective. Take out this worksheet and write down as many things as you can think of, at least 10. And I would suggest that you just write even more, that you just keep writing all of the things that you're grateful for. And there may be some days where it's really hard, that you can just go to, I'm grateful for the breath in my body. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee that I get to have, because looking broader than that may seem impossible for you.
That's good.
And it's really changed my mindset. And as I've talked to students and people that we work with who use this as a practice, they're seeing that it's making a difference by doing this. So having the discipline every day, we do it as part of our morning success ritual, is thinking every day of 3 things that you're grateful for. I do this every single morning. It's just part of my morning success ritual. I check in with myself and how am I doing? How am I feeling in my energetic body today? How am I feeling physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? And then wherever that may be, whether I'm doing really well and having a lot of energy, or whether I'm in a place where it was one of those days it was a little bit harder to get out of bed, I can make a choice and you can make a choice. And I write down 3 things I'm grateful for very specifically each morning.
That's good.
Yeah.
And if you do it in the morning, are they the same? I mean, so I would, if I did it every morning rather than just sporadically, like I tend to do things a little more sporadically than you, would it be every morning for me? It would be, I'm glad I woke up. I'm glad I'm breathing, and I'm glad I have a cup of coffee. I mean, how do you get away from that if you're doing it at the same time every morning?
Well, one of the things that I like to do is I do like to think of things that are different. So often it will be the first thing that comes to mind. I may not be the thing that I write down. If it's something that because you could say that every day, like you
that's
said,
what I was wondering.
which is great. And I would suggest, and what I do is I tie an emotion to it. So I think today, my 3 for today was one of them. I'm grateful that I passed my certification for my 200-hour yoga that I did this year. So that was just one of my goals I put for myself, is that I wanted to become a certified trauma-informed yoga instructor, because I do so much work with trauma, and I was excited to have this offering and teaching to be able to share with others. So that was a bigger thing that I just received this morning. So when I did my gratefulness exercise, that was part of mine. The other thing that I was grateful for this morning was that our daughter didn't go into labor in the middle of the night. As our daughter is expecting, it looked like it might be that she was going into labor last night. We just got home from a trip and are very jet lagged, and I was thinking to myself last night, boy, I sure need a good night of sleep tonight, and I prefer that she wait a little bit. It's not her due date yet. So I was grateful for that, for her to not have to go as tired as she was last night, to have that happen in the middle of the night. And let's see, I was also grateful to just be home. And I mean, a simple thing, but if you travel a lot as we do, I was just grateful to be home and the opportunity to sleep in my own bed last night. So those were my 3. So they're pretty specific to the day. And I think as you do that more, it's what's top of mind for you when you're waking up in the morning. And sometimes it may be that you're thinking something negative, and could you take that and even change that perspective into a positive is another way to think of it. And then I mentioned putting a feeling with it. So how do you feel in your heart? What's making you happy? I mean, happiness, joy, gratitude, all of those things really go together. So when you're feeling that warm thought toward my daughter, that brought up some Thanksgiving in that particular area. I was feeling very grateful for our home that we get to live in. So when you tie it to that emotion, then that just is a wonderful way to do some health benefits, like lowering your heart rate. It's proven that gratitude helps you be healthier, lowers your heart rate. It raises your HRV. You have this sense of well-being that washes over you, and it's just good for you.
Good. So you write them down and then you attach an emotion. Perfect.
That's the difference.
That's great. Anything else?
I don't think so for now.
That's good.
I think it's good. So wherever you are today, whatever circumstances you're going through, whether you feel like it's an easy time for you to express gratitude, make it your choice. And if you're going through something hard right now, and if you're in darker days of overwhelm where this feels really difficult, my friend, gratitude is your choice. And it's your way out into feeling better and to having better and brighter days. So wherever you are today, choose gratitude.